Last week I did a video on how to negotiate family situations, and I'll link to that one up here. And this week I wanted to continue that theme and talk about sarcasm, because in my family and with my groups of friends, joking around and sometimes using sarcasm is kind of like breathing. It's just, we do it all the time. And with each interaction, either, we're making bonds or we're kind of fracturing them a little bit. And what's on the table is the relationship, which of course is really important. So I want to talk about sarcasm and how I'm learning to kind of do it a little bit less and to turn it into something a little bit more playful that I call banter. Sarcasm is a really dangerous tool to throw around, and it's one that I delve into too often because it's really tempting. It's a cheap comedic trip. It gets a quick laugh, but the problem is it kind of has the ability to undermine the relationship you have with somebody because it is saying something positive, but it is implying something negative. And by contrast, bantering is the opposite. Where sarcasm makes the other person feel bad, bantering is also playful, but it makes the other person feel good. We've all been on the receiving end of sarcasm, and it's pretty easy to understand why it can be frustrating to deal with. And if you think about it, saying something sarcastic usually is saying something positive, but the implication is negative. So let's say that I see my friend Kevin and he's wearing the same shirt 2 days in a row. I could say something like, "Nice shirt, Kevin." And I'm saying nice words like "nice shirt, Kevin," but my tone is sarcastic and the underlying implication is something mean like, "God, I hate your shirt and you dress like a slob." Now, if anybody ever calls me out for being sarcastic, it's really easy for me to hide behind the wall of comedy and say, "Hey, I was just joking." But the truth is, either it's a really weak attempt at comedy or there's some truth beneath what I'm saying and I'm uncomfortable about saying it directly. Let's take another example. Let's say I'm talking to my mom and she casually mentions for the 100th time, if you lived closer to home, you'd see your nephews more. This is a made-up example. This is not real. And if I was to retort sarcastically, I could say something like, "Yeah, Mom, moving home would do amazing things for my career." Now, the true meaning behind that statement is that moving home would be really bad for my career, and I'm frustrated that she doesn't see the value in that career enough to really stop bugging me about moving home. Now, it would be nice if I could just promise myself, "Hey, I'm gonna stop being sarcastic," but it's actually easier to replace an old habit than it is to just wish that it goes away. So if I was to turn it into bantering, I start flipping these sarcastic statements, and instead of saying something positive and meaning something negative, I say something negative and mean something positive. So for the example of my mom, instead of saying something sarcastic like, "Yeah, moving home would do great for my career," I could say something that is more playful and bantering, where I would say something like, "If I moved home, I would annoy the crap out of you. I would just be knocking on your door day and night, asking you to cook for me, asking to see the Rugrats all the time. You would hate me within 3 months." The key here is to take something that's true or positive and then flip it around. So here I'm taking this concept of visiting my mom and implying that she would hate it, which I think is not true. And she is, I belabor the point. I keep going over and over again. And even though the words are negative, I keep the tone pretty light. And the key with bantering is that if the conversation continues, just to keep going over and over and over and keep making the points more and more ridiculous. So if I wanted to keep going on the same line, I could say, when I finally moved home, you'd have to change the locks as I'd be breaking into the house trying to get at all your cooking. And, with no absence, your heart would never grow fonder. It'd be horrible. I'd go from being your least favorite son and child to being your least favorite relative. And you can just keep going like this. Banter is something that you can just keep rolling with, and the kind of ridiculousness of it keeps it playful and is saying something positive even though you're saying things that are negative. I found that sarcasm was something that I learned. It was something where I learned to look for something negative and then poke at it for some comedic value. But bantering is also learnable. It's something where you're looking for something positive and learning how to play with it. And I found that, for me, sarcasm started to become really tempting because I became good at it. And over time, it kind of corrodes and undermines a relationship. It relies on the idea that, I have a bond with this person and they're not going to take what I'm saying too seriously. Whereas bantering is actually something that is bonding and something generally positive and building the other person up, which is just engendering goodwill all around. Now, if you're on the receiving end of sarcasm, it feels a little different, and the key is to keep it positive and flip the situation by using banter. So, if somebody's sarcastic to you and they say something nice, but it's implying something mean with a sarcastic tone, the key is to take it as if they meant it literally. So if somebody said, "Nice shirt, Craig," the key for me is to take it as if they actually meant "nice shirt" because this is an amazing shirt, and then to flip it by using banter. So here's an example. So let's pretend my friend Chris is an amazing tennis player and I actually am a horrible tennis player. So he comes to me and says, "Hey, nice shirt, Craig." And I'm like, "Oh man, this shirt is pretty amazing. You can't have it though. This is only for amazing tennis players, and since you're such a crap tennis player, you just can't swing this shirt. Sorry." Now, that as an example is taking something that was negative and just kind of misinterpreting it like it was positive, like he wanted my shirt, and then turning it even more positive by going into banter and still being playful. It completely turns around the situation, and I don't have to kind of reply with sarcasm even though he was being sarcastic to me as a way of being funny. Now, usually in this channel, I've been talking about negotiation and how to get more money and more value out of situations. And this is kind of a different video because it's about something that's very soft skill, sarcasm, banter, engendering goodwill. And the reason is that I really feel like words are an incredible superpower. And if we learn to use them properly, before everything that happens, there are usually words and language exchange. Before there are wars, before there are deals, before there's money, before you get a job, before you make friends, before you make your vows, there's always language. And the way that we craft language is super important to me because it kind of defines how we go through this life and how we are in connection with other people. I've been reading this book called Sapiens, and it's an amazing book about the history of humankind, all the way from Neanderthals and the first humans, all the way to modern society. And at the very cornerstone of what makes us human is our language. It's how we bond to each other. It's how we form big groups and make big plans and buildings and societies and empires. And today, maybe especially today, where we have division and so many things going on in the world and so many types of people and so many cultures, I think language and learning how to craft our language is extremely important and something that should be taught more and paid attention to more. And so in addition to the negotiation stuff that I'm going to be kind of expanding out into more topics around communication, I hope you enjoy them. And if you do, please hit me up with a like, a comment, question. I'd love to hear about things that you have questions about that I can dig into and then make a video about. And of course, subscribe to my channel because I'm coming out with a new video every single week. I'll see you next time.